Welcome back to The Few. I am Jess Bost. I am here with my co-host, Alex Chalekian.
Hello, hello.
Welcome. And we are excited about today's topic, even if it is a little bit of a toughie. We are going to be talking about financial advisor fees, the different ways that people charge fees, the overall fee structure that you might encounter when working with a financial advisor. And we're going to give you a little bit of a benchmark or a guide on what appropriate fees look like and how you can ask some questions to figure out if you are being charged a fair fee and what a fair fee is. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Yeah, I've been excited to talk about this because I think this is probably one of the largest topics or questions we get as financial planners.
Yeah.
They're like, how do you charge? What is this? I don't get it. There's so many different types of fees.
Yep.
Some that are very evident and some that are kind of hidden. So I think it's very important that we kind of break this down, and the more you know, the better and more educated you could be as when you decide to choose who you want to work with.
That's right. I think also on the advisor side of the industry, there's a lot of contention over what the right way to charge is. And so there's a lot of discussion around this on both sides, both the client and the advisor side.
Yeah, it's that we don't have to talk about that part of it because I think advisors can argue all day, every day about that. And but in any case,
from a client standpoint, the focus for you is: are you getting the value that you're paying for the thing that you're paying for? Can you trust the advisor?
Right.
And, is my advisor acting ethically? And so those are some big things that I think we need to cover from the client's perspective.
Okay. So let's maybe just dive right into, why is it important for clients to understand how their financial advisor charges fees?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the important thing is that this is your money and your wealth and your retirement and your security, your financial security. So knowing how much you charge and knowing that you can't afford to pay that price without it affecting you detrimentally, that's number one to me. The most important reason for you to be able to understand, like, how does that impact me and my long-term wealth? The second thing is transparency and trust, to know, am I working with someone who is willing to answer my questions, able to answer my questions? Can they articulate, can they help me understand exactly what I'm paying for and why? And that's really important, working with any professional, but again, especially with your money and your wealth and your future. And then again, there are people in the industry, unfortunately, that are out to take advantage of someone. And so we personally have met with clients who've been victim to this unfortunate circumstance in the past. And without asking these questions, without understanding some of these embedded conflicts of interest that might exist, I think clients can sometimes fall prey to some of these unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a bunch of great issues. Very quickly, I wanted to chime in because one of the things is even a small little percentage can compound tremendously over time, especially depending on the way things are being charged, if they're charging based on your assets. So even if it's, a 0.25% over the years, that could be thousands of dollars.
Right.
And then one of the other things that we always talk to people, and they're like, oh, my advisor doesn't charge me anything. And I'm like, well, have you looked into what this product is? And there's 3 or 4% of fees embedded into this product. No one on Wall Street works for free. And I think that's something that we want to make sure people understand. There's always some sort of fee, whatever it may be. You might not be seeing it, or they might not be disclosing it, or they might have disclosed it and you missed it, whatever the case is. But don't just think like, oh, they've never charged me anything. There's some way they're getting compensated. It's not a charity. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was kind of explaining those differences, because that's another thing. We've had clients that have come to meet with us, or they've emailed me saying, I'm confused. What the heck is fee-based, fee-only, commission-based, blah, blah, blah. We obviously use a lot of jargon in our industry, and I think it's actually done on purpose to confuse the crap out of people. because that way they can rely on us. So
In some cases, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think in a lot of cases, unfortunately, because there's been a big dynamic shift in this industry. Do you mind breaking those down?
Sure, but yeah. I think the first and most important thing to discuss and to make sure that everybody understands is there are two ways that people get paid, two types of things that people get paid for in financial services. There is a product that gets sold, or there is a service that is given. And both of those things happen ethically within financial services because, for example, insurance is a product
Right.
that you are purchasing. There's no way for someone to serve you with insurance. And so if you need an insurance product, you are going to have to buy that thing. And buying that thing comes with a cost to you. So you are purchasing a product and paying a cost to have that product. And because insurance fluctuates based on the amount that you need, usually that product has a fluctuating charge as well.
Right.
It's based on how much you're buying. So there's a product side of the industry, and then there's also a service side of the industry where we provide financial planning. Financial planning is a service because they are bringing us essentially a portfolio of items and saying, help.
Yeah.
And we are walking them through how to build a plan based on their life and their goals and what they want and how to align their money with those things. And that is a service that we are providing to them. And so when you hear somebody say fee only, typically that is going to be associated with a service that they are providing you. Either they are giving you investment management, so they're giving you advice on how to manage your assets. They are providing you with a financial plan based on this bundle of items that you brought them and the wishes and the goals that you say you have. So that is fee only. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum.
Oh, before you forget, maybe also like a hourly fee, possibly that would fall into
That would fall in that category as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Again, still based around services
Right.
that someone
Correct.
is providing. On the other end of that spectrum is a product. So we'll go back to the example of insurance. Insurance in and of itself was not a bad thing. You are offloading risk to a company who said, I'll take on that risk for you. And those products, the way that someone who is providing those products to you gets paid is through a commission.
Right.
Again, based on the amount of the product that you need. And so commission-based is aligned kind of with products, typically. Fee only, it's aligned typically with service. And then there are some advisors that provide both. And that's where you'll get an advisor who says, I'm fee-based because I do charge based on fees, primarily for the services that I provide. However, I can't say fee only because there are some things that I provide to you as the client that are commission based. And so that's where you get that fee based, which is kind of in the middle.
Right. And I think a good tell is when you are hopefully doing some homework and looking into advisors, whether you go to finra.org, see what licenses they hold. Based on the licenses, it's very easy sometimes to be able to tell if they're fee only or fee based, meaning they also have other licenses where they could sell you commissionable products.
That's right. I'll put a little asterisk on this. We'll come back to it later when we talk more about transparency and trust, because there are situations where you might find that your advisor does not disclose some of the commissions that they're being paid. So little asterisk, we'll come back to that in a minute.
Sneaky.
It is, yeah.
So I think this gets thrown out around a lot, and you hear this in very much marketing terms. I don't know how much it means these days, but obviously a lot of people have come to us and said, we'll ask, are you a fiduciary? And I don't think they understand even what that means, but they've just been told to ask that. So can you maybe break that down a little easier? Like, what does it mean for an advisor to even act as a fiduciary? You know, why is that even important for people to ask that question or know if their advisor is a fiduciary?
Yeah, I might get in trouble with the medical profession by using this as an example, but I know that there is something out there for the medical profession that is called board certified.
Right.
Right. And that is not just a physician who has completed their schooling, but they've gone to an additional length to ensure and to continue to ensure that they are, and again, it's board certification, they're being given this extra kind of seal of approval
Right.
by a third party that says you, not only do you know what you need to know, but you are continuing to provide services and guidance ethically to your people under the standards that we have additionally created for the medical field,
Yeah.
specifically within your profession. And I think fiduciary, though it's a terrible word, can be somewhat associated and aligned with the financial profession in the same way that board certified is aligned with
Gotcha.
the medical profession, because being a fiduciary is that extra level of not only service, but an indication. When somebody says, I am acting as a fiduciary, when I am being held to a fiduciary standard, it means that legally I am required not just to act in the client's best interest, which is something we talk about in this industry and is always important,
Right.
but to hold their goals and their priorities out ahead of mine, to look out for their interests, to look out for what they need and what they want before I look out for what I need and
Right.
what I want. It truly is the gold standard of financial advice. And people who are not fiduciaries are only held to this suitability standard, which is what we talked about, which means, is this product suitable for a client?
Right.
So just because you can wear a shirt doesn't mean that you should wear a shirt.
Right.
Just because
Like,
it
what are you saying?
fits your
This-
body
You don't like this shirt?
doesn't mean that it's the best choice for you. But if I get paid more
Right.
for selling you that shirt,
Exactly.
then, and I'm not held to a higher standard of making sure that you are wearing something that is right, not only for you, but for the situation that you're in and for the future and your goals, then I might be tempted to sell you the shirt where I get paid a little bit more
Right.
for. And that is what the fiduciary standard is saying. We are not only just wanting you to have something that looks good on you, but also we want to make sure that it is the best thing that you can be doing for your situation.
As far as another gold standard in our industry, how about with the CFP designation, a certified financial planner, which you have that designation, you are a CFP. How do you equate those two as far as being a fiduciary and having that license as well for being the gold standard in the industry?
Well, the CFP is a board organization, right? So by having that CFP designation, I am agreeing to be held by the board standards. And one of those standards is to always act as a fiduciary.
Right.
It outlines what types of circumstances and relationships, if I'm agreeing to be that for the client, then I am automatically being held to a fiduciary standard. The client doesn't have to ask me to act as a fiduciary. I don't have to sign a piece of paper that says I will be a fiduciary.
Right.
If I have agreed to this type of relationship with you, I'm automatically held to that standard. So anytime you engage with a CFP, in most situations, whenever we agree to a service for a client, we are 99.9% of the time agreeing to that fiduciary standard.
Okay, great. So that is the standard. Now let's look at some of the red flags. What should people be looking out for when choosing a financial advisor?
Well, first and foremost, you should be and always feel comfortable to ask direct questions about the fees that you are paying. And you should always feel like they are giving you direct answers.
You'd be amazed at how little that's done these days.
You would be. Incomplete answers, if things like, oh, well, it's all in the paperwork without explaining to you.
Right.
Or, if you had read my email, you would have seen kind of things like that where people are just pushing back on walking you through it and really continuing to just go for the sell. Like, don't worry about it. It's a reasonable fee for you. It's fine. What's most important is that you're going to go ahead and get in the market and start, earning this rate of return that we've talked about. Anything that's pushing you past a moment where you're asking to understand and trying to get you to close is a red flag for sure.
Yeah, I've seen this also happen with agreements. Like, oh, don't worry, it's a 50-page agreement. just sign here, it's fine, as opposed to kind of breaking it down, showing what the fees are, how they're compensated and so forth. How about when they kind of dance around the whole question about, are you a fiduciary?
Well, I think that should automatically be a red flag, because anyone who asks me if I'm a fiduciary, my automatic answer is always yes. If in this relationship that you've engaged with me on, I am compelled
Right.
by law to act as a fiduciary. So that should not be a hard question for anyone to answer if they are acting in a fiduciary capacity. While we're talking about red flags, I'll wrap back around to that asterisk. With regards to investment management, I think this is where advisors can get into some hot water easily, because there are, within an investment advice, there are two different ways that we can invest our clients' assets, and
Right.
two majorly different ways. And one is in a commission-based product, and then one is in a fee-based product where we charge a fee for the advice that we are giving you and the investment plan that we are creating for you. Sometimes advisors will double dip
Right.
without disclosing that. Now, the double dipping, we could leave room for maybe the mutual fund or the product is the best fit for the client in that situation. What's problematic is when the advisor does not disclose that they are also getting paid a commission in addition to the fee that the client is paying,
Right.
and or not mitigating some of that fee because they are also getting paid a commission. So the client is still coming out to the average fee that we're telling them that they are paying. And so all of that, again, some of it, I understand why some, especially newer advisors, may not feel comfortable walking through all of those pieces, why some clients may not have the level of understanding to really dive into those details. But if you're asking an advisor and you're not getting complete answers, or if you're feeling like maybe the fees that you're getting charged are above and beyond what
Yeah.
you are getting, like the value of the getting, that's definitely a reason for you to
I,
ask.
I used to see this back in the day. I don't know if it really happens now. I wouldn't be surprised, but I would see a new client would come on. They would put them into a commissionable product, and then shortly after that, turn them into a fee base. So they got paid an upfront commission on this stuff, and then they put it into some sort of a asset management portfolio where they were getting paid ongoing as well.
Yep.
You mentioned something about financial plans, which I think is important. I've seen this kind of be a red flag. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a red flag 100% of the time, but I've had several people come to us and say, you guys charge for a financial plan. And I will explain, yes, because we're going to put 8 to 10 hours worth of work typically on this plan. So we want to make sure we do the right thing and give you comprehensive, independent recommendations, not something that we're going to get paid on the back end. And they'll be like, well, I don't understand. I've talked to other advisors and they said they'll do the financial plan for free. I mean, you kind of get what you pay for,
That's
right?
right.
And I think one of the other things is I've noticed when I've asked those individuals to show me what the quote unquote financial plan was, it's just a proposal tool. They're just saying, here's our model, we're going to put it in, and they say it's a financial plan. But that's not a financial plan. There's really no recommendation besides, here's a product we want to sell you. So I think it's key for people to understand that. And I also think it's kind of a red flag when they talk about free financial plans, if they're really not giving a comprehensive plan, but just kind of using that as a bait and switch to an extent of bringing you in for marketing purposes. Once you're in the door, they're like, it's unlikely they're going to leave. Almost like the car salesman that knows if you leave the dealership, there's a 99% chance you're not coming back. So
That's right.
I got to try to close this deal while you're here.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
so what are some of the ways that clients can ensure they're asking the right questions to uncover some of these conflicts that we talked about?
Yeah. My favorite question to encourage someone to ask, especially if they come to us, a lot of times when people come to us, they're shopping around. They want to know what services we provide.
Which we encourage, by the
We
way.
encourage them to
I
do
think
that.
they need to find someone that they're comfortable with. We're not always the right fit for them.
Yeah. So a question that I think that will help you, just from a fee standpoint, there's lots of questions that you should be asking advisors, but specifically related to fees, pick a number, whether that's $100,000, 500, a million,
Mm-hmm.
and ask those advisors that you're interviewing, ask all of them, if I were to invest this amount with you, so let's just go with $100,000. If I were to invest $100,000 with you,
Mm-hmm.
on on average per year,
Mm-hmm.
how much would I pay you in fees? Not what percentage, but what is the dollar
Dollar
amount
amount, yeah.
that I would pay you in fees? And what are the services that I would receive in exchange for that specific payment? And that should help you uncover in ways that you can hopefully likely understand best how to compare those advisors. Because if you go to an advisor and they say, we're going to deliver a plan for you for $100,000, your fee to us is 2%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You do the math on that. That's $2,000 for a plan. And you want to ask a little bit more so for $2,000 for a plan, if they're planning on putting 8 to 10 or more hours in addition to investment management with you. So,
Right.
and then that annual meeting, like you can quickly see
Right.
how they are paying themselves.
Right.
And also keep in mind that the lower the cost means the lower the actual service and the work the deep work that they need to do for you is going to be aligned with the amount of time that they spend on your plan. So
I've run into situations like this where we've seen advisors that have, when they have been asked that question and they're utilizing some sort of a commissionable product, they're like, oh, we're not getting paid anything. Nothing is coming out of your pocket. Instead of saying what they're getting paid, they're like, oh, you're not paying anything.
yeah,
So they're putting, let's say, in this example, the $100,000 into an annuity. They're like, oh, nothing's going to come out of your pocket. All 100,000 is going to get invested. But yet that advisor or insurance agent most of the time is, depending on the product, could be getting upwards of 8 and 9% commissions
yeah.
on the back end.
Which brings us to another great and very, very reasonable question for you to ask is, how much are you getting paid
Right.
for this money that I'm investing? Not how much am I paying you,
Right.
but how much are you getting paid
Right.
for this sell or for this relationship? That's also a reason. Is there anyone else that is getting paid because of me investing this money with you? Is also a reasonable question
Correct.
to ask. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise. That is because it is part of that embedded conflict of interest that someone else might be getting paid a referral fee for sending them to you.
Yeah.
And that may be part of the reason why you've ended up at this advisor's doorstep. And also, ongoing, will I continue to pay these? Will it change year over year?
Mm-hmm.
If I were to, am I able to take this money out without a fee or without a penalty?
Mm-hmm.
Is also a really important question to ask. So don't ever let someone shame you for the questions that you ask around how your money is getting invested, who's getting paid for that, and what is coming out of your pocket, but also what else am I paying and how am I paying it?
Yeah, these are great questions to uncover the conflicts of interest. You actually have a great guide that not only asks these questions, but there's a lot of other questions
That's right.
that you should be asking when you meet with a financial advisor as you kind of do your due diligence and meet with different ones. I would definitely suggest people go to the website to download that guide, or we'll put that the link also in the show notes. If you go to joinfew.com, you'll be able to download that. I think that's something that you need to have before you ever talk to an advisor.
I agree. Yep. So, I can't stress enough. And part of that guide is just normalizing for people what is okay to ask. Because I think there's been a lot of shame built into the process in order to, again, protect the ones who are trying to take advantage of clients. So.
As we kind of wrap up here, one of the things that a lot of times people will ask is that a fair fee?
Fair.
Yeah, is that fair? They have no idea. They've talked to different advisors. Like I said, sometimes they're told, oh, you shouldn't have to pay a cent. And then others are on the other end of the spectrum where it's a lot larger fee. What would you say, like, how should clients evaluate whether the fees they're paying are kind of fair?
Well, at the end of the day, I want to start I want to start at the end of the day, kind of big picture thinking, and then we'll back up a little bit. Is once you know the dollar amount that you are paying whether it's out of your invested assets or the future expectations that like once you know essentially on an annual basis what you're going to be paying this advisor to provide you the services that you're agreed on, ask yourself, would I pay another professional
Right.
this amount? Is this does this feel fair when you're having someone come clean your house? There's a reasonable range of prices that you might be willing to pay them. And
Right.
if they price themselves out of that, you're going to say, no, thank you, and move on to someone else.
Are you getting value out of it, right? At the end of the day, everyone,
yeah.
it's a little bit different. So,
Right.
and it's not, I don't think it's always just a dollar amount or percentage. What are they bringing in exchange?
That's right.
For example, someone could be charging a 1% asset management fee and they do 100 different things for you. And then someone else charges a 1% asset management fee and they don't do anything besides just the asset management.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So asking for that list of services that they're going to provide for this fee that they're charging and for what they're getting paid is super important. Keep in mind that in a lot of cases with commissionable products, if you're not also paying for a plan, it's legally okay for it to be a one and done
Right.
for them. So
yeah.
they don't have to come back to you after they sell that product. to
This
you and
happens
check
in the
on you.
bank all the time.
Yes, it
I've talked to so many advisors that work in the bank channel. They said once we sell this product to them, they could be calling us and wanting service and have questions. We don't have time to contact them. We're focused on the next sale.
We're not legally required to
Yeah,
either.
well, yeah,
So.
exactly.
So I think that's an important thing to consider with products, especially when you are tying those into an advisory relationship. There's a good chance that those are going to continue to get evaluated for you on an at least annual basis, so that you can continue to determine whether or not you need that product
Okay.
and need to be paying those fees. And keep in mind, again, to your point, comprehensive advice justifies a higher fee. So if you do have more money and you have a more complicated situation, if you need to involve a trust or tax planning, like all of these things
Right.
are
Different
it's reasonable
strategies and so forth.
to,
Yeah.
to pay for them. It's also reasonable for you to continually and annually assess whether or not those fees are in line with the services that you're being provided. I would say industry norms for asset management are going to be around 1%, depending on the situation. Industry norms for planning have a much wider range. And so, whereas we might charge X, someone else down the road might charge something different. Again, the only way you're really going to be able to evaluate that is to check that list of services provided and align it with what you need.
And definitely make sure you request those lists of services. When they say it costs $5,000 for a financial plan, it's like, well, what does that include?
Right.
Right. So, Jess, this has been super helpful. Thank you so much for putting this together, for putting that guide together that, again, you can download off our website, joinfew.com. Any last words or parting words here?
Yeah, just be courageous. This is okay for you to ask. Don't be ashamed to ask these questions. This does not indicate that you're a bad person or that you are being too much. I think so. So a woman thing that they feel sometimes we're asking too much, too many questions. Don't let that message get embedded in your head.
No.
Be courageous and ask what you need to feel sure that you are paying a fair price.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Jess. We will see you on the next one. Stay safe, everybody.